I didn't even notice when my 10-year-old daughter started making my breakfast. Or when she tucked me in. I just remember staring at the ceiling, day after day, thinking nothing mattered anymore. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when I had energy, purpose, a schedule. My name is Lena. I'm 38 years old, and I used to be what people call a strong single mom. I worked 2 jobs, paid rent on time, attended every parent-teacher meeting, and managed to bake cupcakes for school events. But strength is not infinite. It started with a simple meeting at work, a layoff, budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal. I had been there for 9 years. I was too shocked to cry. I walked home that evening in silence. My daughter Mia skipping beside me, telling me about her math test. I nodded, pretending to listen. That night, I stayed awake staring at the ceiling. What now? I whispered to the dark. I thought it would pass. Just a rough patch. But the days turned into weeks. The job market was cruel. Rejections piled up in my inbox. The bills kept coming. Rent, utilities, groceries, and the weight on my chest grew heavier. I stopped brushing my hair. Then, I stopped getting out of bed. Mia started waking herself up for school. I heard her soft footsteps in the kitchen. The sound of the toaster. The clink of a spoon in a bowl of cereal. She was 10, just 10. One morning, I found a note next to my bed. "Mommy, I made you tea. It's on the table. Love, Mia." The cup had gone cold by the time I sat up. I wish I could say I snapped out of it, that her kindness was enough to pull me up, but I couldn't move. I felt like I was buried under something invisible, something heavy and sticky. Depression doesn't knock. It seeps in through the cracks. By the 3rd week, I stopped opening the blinds. The house was dark, silent. I stayed in the same clothes for days. Mia tried to talk to me. I remember her saying, "Mom, can we go outside today?" And me replying, "Not today, baby. Maybe tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. One afternoon, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Quiet sobs. I wanted to go to her. My body didn't move. I remember thinking, "You're failing her." But even that guilt couldn't lift me. She stopped asking questions. Instead, she started taking care of things. She learned how to microwave frozen meals. She organized her school bag. She combed her own hair. Sometimes she even folded the laundry. I heard her small voice humming songs as she cleaned the living room. Once, I saw her dragging a chair over to reach the top shelf, where I kept the coffee. It broke me. A neighbor, Mrs. Clark, knocked on our door one day. I didn't answer. Mia did. I overheard their conversation. "Is your mom okay, sweetheart?" "She's just really tired," Mia said in her too grown-up voice. "Do you need anything?" Mia hesitated. "We're okay." Later that night, I cried into my pillow. Not because I was sad. No. Sadness had left a long time ago. I cried because I was ashamed. Mia, my child, was now the adult in the house. She didn't complain. She didn't scold me. She just adjusted, like children do when they have no other choice. One day, I woke up and saw Mia asleep at the edge of the bed, holding my hand. She must have crawled in during the night. Her fingers were cold, and something inside me cracked. That was the moment I realized. I was slowly killing the best thing in my life. I reached for my phone. The screen lit up. Dozens of unread emails, missed calls, messages from my sister, from Mia's school. I scrolled through them, my hands shaking. Then I called someone I hadn't spoken to in over a year. "Rachel," I whispered. "I need help." She didn't ask questions. She just said, "I'll be there in 20 minutes. When Rachel arrived, she hugged me so tightly, I almost couldn't breathe. She looked at me and said, "Lena, you look like a ghost." I nodded. "I feel like one." Mia stood at the hallway watching us. For the first time in weeks, I knelt in front of her and said, "I'm so sorry." She didn't speak. She just wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered, "It's okay, Mommy. I'm here." That night, I showered for the first time in weeks. Rachel made spaghetti. Mia set the table, and we ate dinner like a family. It was a small step, but it was the first. The first thing Rachel did after cleaning up our kitchen was hand me a notepad. "We're going to start small," she said. "One goal a day." I stared at the notepad like it was written in a foreign language. "Get out of bed. Take a shower. Brush your hair. Simple," she said gently, as she sat across from me. "And Lena, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to remind you, you're not broken beyond repair." Mia was sitting on the floor next to us, coloring. I noticed the way her eyes darted up every few seconds to watch me, to check if I was really sitting upright, really trying. That night, I checked off all 3 things. It felt like winning a marathon. Rachel stayed for 3 days. She helped restock groceries, made phone calls to the school, and cleaned parts of the house I had stopped seeing. She also gave Mia something more valuable than toys or praise. She gave her back her childhood. "Go play outside," Rachel said to her one afternoon. Mia blinked. "But what about lunch?" "I've got it covered. You go be 10. And for the first time in weeks, I heard Mia laugh. That sound, light and real, felt like someone had thrown open the windows inside my chest. But the guilt didn't go away so easily. One night, I sat at the kitchen table and asked, "Rachel, what kind of mother lets her daughter become her nurse?" She looked me dead in the eye and said, "A human one, a hurting one, and now you're a healing one." I cried harder than I had in years. The next week, I started therapy. It wasn't easy, sitting in front of a stranger and explaining that I had become invisible to myself wasn't something I could package into neat little sentences. But the therapist, a calm gray-haired woman named Simone, didn't flinch when I said, I wanted to disappear. She just nodded and said, "You didn't. That means something." Session after session, I began to feel like I was slowly brushing dust off a mirror, seeing myself again in fragments. Mia was my silent motivation. She watched everything, every tiny effort I made, she noticed. One day, she said, "You made lunch today, Mommy." It was just a sandwich, but her voice carried pride. I hugged her tight and whispered, "Thank you for taking care of me. When I forgot how to take care of myself." She didn't say anything. She just smiled and leaned her head on my shoulder. That moment meant more than 1,000 therapy sessions, but healing isn't linear. There were days I slipped, days I stayed in bed too long, days I forgot the checklist, and one day I screamed at Mia for spilling juice and instantly hated myself for it. She looked so shocked, so small. I dropped to my knees and apologized over and over. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed the moment again and again. Was I just pretending to get better? Would Mia always be afraid of me slipping again? I called Simone the next morning. I yelled at her. I confessed. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Simone was quiet for a moment, then said, "The fact that you cared so deeply means you're already different, and if you apologize and repair the bond." She learned something too, that even adults make mistakes, but love makes us come back. So I did, again, properly. And Mia, in all her wisdom, said something I'll never forget. "I was scared, Mommy, but I know you're trying." A few weeks later, her school had a mother-daughter breakfast. I almost didn't go. Crowds still made my chest tight. Noise overwhelmed me, and I wasn't sure how to face the other parents. But Mia had already laid out our clothes. She wore a yellow dress. I wore jeans and a sweater that still smelled faintly of antidepressants and tears. But it was clean. When we walked into the cafeteria, Mia squeezed my hand. "You're here," she said. I nodded. She smiled. That's all I wanted. I looked around. Other moms laughed, sipped coffee, snapped photos. I felt like an outsider for a moment, until Mia held up a piece of paper she had written. It was titled, "Why My Mom Is My Hero." It said, "My mom is my hero because she got back up, even when it was hard, even when she cried, even when I had to make toast by myself. She's trying, and that's the bravest thing." I cried right there in that plastic chair, in front of all those moms, but I didn't care because I had never felt more seen. That day, something changed. I stopped asking myself if I was a good mother. I started asking, am I showing up today? And more days than not, the answer was yes. At home, we created a new kind of rhythm. Mia got her childhood back. I reclaimed my role, slowly, carefully. We cooked together, played silly board games, walked in the park. We made Pizza Fridays a rule, and had movie nights with popcorn on the couch. I even started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. Mia made me hang one of my paintings in the hallway. "Because it's beautiful," she said. I smiled and replied, "Just like you." One evening, Mia looked at me and said, "Mommy, you laugh different now." "Different how?" I asked. "It's louder and real." I wrapped her in my arms. "You're the reason I laugh at all." One night, as we cleaned up dinner, Mia asked, "Do you think people will ever know what I did for you?" I paused, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "I'll make sure the world knows." It started with an email. Subject line, "Parenting Through Darkness. We'd love to hear your story." It was from the local community centre. They were organising a mental health awareness panel, and someone, probably Rachel, had dropped my name. I almost deleted it. My hands hovered over the mouse. Me? Talk about what I went through. In public. But something in me whispered, "You promised Mia you'd tell the world." So I wrote back, "Yes, I'd be honoured." The weeks leading up to the talk felt like preparing for war and therapy at the same time. Every night, I'd sit with a notebook and try to write my speech. How do you summarize falling apart while your child becomes your caretaker, and then somehow crawling your way back up? Rachel helped me draft it. Simone gave me grounding exercises. Mia, she just gave me hugs and whispered, "You got this, Mommy." And on the day of the talk, I wore a dress I hadn't worn in years. Navy blue, soft, simple. Mia picked it out. "You look brave," she said. The community centre hall wasn't huge. Maybe 50 chairs, a small podium, a microphone. But to me, it looked like Madison Square Garden. My palms were sweating. I could barely hear the person introducing me. And then, I saw Mia, front row, sitting next to Rachel, her little hands folded in her lap. And when I looked down, she gave me the smallest, proudest smile. It steadied me. I took the mic, deep breath. Then I began. "I'm Lena. I'm a single mother, and for a long time, I was surviving by disappearing." I saw a few nods, one woman near. The back had tears in her eyes already. There was a time I couldn't get out of bed, couldn't make lunch, couldn't be the mom I wanted to be. I paused, but someone stepped up. Not a friend, not a therapist. My daughter, 10 years old, making toast, tucking me in, whispering, "It's okay, Mommy," when I couldn't move. People were listening now, really listening. And the worst part, I said, voice shaking, I let her. I needed her. And the guilt ate me alive. A man in the second row wiped his eyes. But healing started the day I let someone in, a friend who reminded me I was still in there, buried under the grief, and a daughter who never stopped believing I could find my way back. I saw Mia sit a little taller. I'm here today, I continued, because I made a promise to that little girl that I'd speak, that I'd share the truth, that I'd stop pretending everything was okay and start being honest with myself and with others. There was silence, heavy, respectful, then applause, real, warm, rising applause. I exhaled like I hadn't in years. After the event, people came up to me. A nurse who said she'd seen too many mothers like me. A young woman who said, I was that daughter once. And an older gentleman who just held my hand and said, thank you for saying what my wife never could. But none of it meant more than Mia running up to me and whispering, you did it, Mommy. That night, we celebrated with takeout and cupcakes. Mia wore a crown made of paper and called herself Princess of Patience. I laughed so hard I cried, not out of sadness, but out of gratitude. In the months that followed, things changed. I was asked to do more talks, parent groups, mental health panels, podcasts. Each time I said yes, not because I wanted attention, but because I knew someone out there had a Mia, or was a Mia, and they needed to hear it was okay to struggle, to fall, to need help. I wrote articles, started a blog. My therapist called it transforming pain into purpose, but really I was just keeping my promise. One afternoon, I came home to find Mia writing something at the kitchen table. What's that? I asked. A letter, she said, without looking up. To who? To future me. I smiled. Can I read it? She handed it over. Dear future me, if you ever forget how strong Mommy is, remember that time she stood on a stage and told the truth. And if you ever feel tired, it's okay to rest. I love you. Love little me. I hugged her so tightly she squeaked. People often ask me now, how did you fix everything? And I always tell them, I didn't. I just showed up, one day at a time, one checklist, one school lunch, one open mic, one whispered, I love you. Mia is older now, 12, almost a teenager, wiser than most adults I know. Sometimes when we sit together in the park, she leans her head on my shoulder and says, I remember when you couldn't get out of bed. I nod. So do I. She always follows it with the same line. But you got up. That's what matters. And she's right, because life isn't about never falling. It's about who holds your hand when you do. And sometimes, just sometimes, it's your daughter.